Hello from Clio Cloud Conference 2016 in Chicago, Illinois. My name is Victor Lee, and I'm a legal affairs writer with the ABA Journal.
I'm David Leary. I am the Intuit Small Business Developer Evangelist.
And we're on the road with Legal Talk Network. Thank you very much for joining us on the road. I'm here with David Leary, and thank you very much for joining us today. You gave a great presentation here at the Clio Cloud Conference entitled What Lawyers Can Learn from Accountants and Their Journey to the Cloud. And I was hoping for people who might not have been able to listen to your presentation or be there in person, could you just give us a quick summary about what you talked about?
Yeah, I think for me, the bell went off about 2 years ago at the Clio Cloud Conference. I saw a slide that showed how much more profitable law firms were than accounting firms for the last 40, 50, 60 years it might have been. Except for the last 6 to 8. Accounting firms are more profitable. And from my perspective, I'm like, duh, they've adopted technology. They've moved to cloud. They've moved to value billing. They've reinvented themselves as a practice. So there's a bunch of things that have happened as a result of their transition to cloud that I feel like they're just ahead of lawyers. And that's what I tried to illustrate is like I almost like I came from the future. I'm coming back for 8 years in the past and telling lawyers where we went.
Well, unfortunately, the legal industry does tend to be behind the times a lot, especially when it comes to adopting technology. I mean, what are some things that you've seen just in your practice with regards to how technology has benefited accountants and how it's made them more efficient in what they do?
I think that a lot of it is stacked up. So accountants, when they move to cloud, now they're not limited to things like their zip code. So if you want to be the brewery CPA, you can take on brewers all over the country. You're not limited to where your car can drive. So that's enabled really because of cloud and going in. So that's the main technology stack. The other piece of the technology stack is the automated movement of data. So data can be, for example, in Clio software. The work is done in Clio, the invoicing and the billing is done in Clio, but the Clio is not going to do the accounting work, but that automatically sends the data into QuickBooks, and that's where the accounting work happens. So the accountants are seeing that benefit of efficiencies, and when they gain efficiencies, they gain capacity hours, to put that in a legal term, right? Now they can take on more clients.
So I don't know if you were here early in the morning for the first session, but one of the things that people have been talking about and kind of sent a shockwave through the audience was this idea of how with lawyers, during the course of their day, they only bill about, I think it was 22 or 28%, like about a quarter of their time, and the rest of the time they're doing business development or they're communicating with clients, doing lots of things except billing for work. So what are some things that, besides what you talked about, what are some things that you think lawyers should be doing in order to be more efficient and be able to bill more and maximize their time? So
there's a big discussion about value billing. Like that actually would eliminate this problem of only billing for 1.4 hours a day out of an 8-hour workday, which is that you're right. That slide was just insane. Like, I knew it was bad for lawyers, but I didn't know it was that bad. But a lot of that gap is inefficiencies, right? Maybe the lawyer's answering the phone calls. Like, just start easy, outsource some of that work. Make sure they're not doing data entry. Make sure you have the way to track your time automatically. Make sure you're not calling customers to ask them to pay. You're using an app that goes and taps customers on the shoulder and tells them to pay. There's a lot of efficiencies that can be gained in the processes. And not only that, I think just choosing better clients. Right? If a lawyer is choosing better clients up front, if they're not going to pay you, maybe you don't take them. If you think of your law firm as a business, right? Which ultimately, eventually, you have to, because if not, you're not going to be in. You won't have a business. You can't do it for free.
Well, one thing I wanted to ask you is, one thing that just based on the very superficial knowledge I have of the accounting industry and how it relates to the legal industry, is that a lot of what you guys went through is sort of what 10, 15 years ago is sort of what the legal industry is going through now. Do you think that's fair? And do you think it's going to eventually come to the same conclusion that the legal industry will come to the same conclusion that the accounting industry will eventually came to?
Yes, but I don't think it's done either, right? I think the accounting industry got disrupted, right, by automated data workflows. A lot of the work accountants were doing became commoditized, like doing taxes. And so they kind of a little bit were forced to come to this. But I think what's really driven it is accountants that move their practice to the cloud, accountants that value bill, that kind of have this new model and mindset are more profitable. They have more profitable accounting practices than accountants that don't. And so that's really what's going to keep moving that. But change is still coming, right? but they're going to be able to handle the next changes a little easier. Like if blockchain comes, other regulation changes, accountants, banks, the concept of a bank is changing, but accountants, because they've gone through this transition, are going to be able to handle it a little bit easier than they would have if they didn't have this transition yet. And I think lawyers are just being disrupted in the same ways, right? It's the same transition that's happening. There's new business models. Everybody's disrupted right now. Hairdressers got disrupted by blow-dry bars, right? They bypassed by having a blow-dry bar, right? You don't have to get certified. You don't have to have licenses, right? And so they're still providing a service and making money as a business, but they've bypassed that. Ride-sharing services bypassed all the medallions that the taxi cabs have. So everybody's being disrupted, and to think you're not is a little naive.
So before we close it out today, I have one last question for you. If our listeners would like to follow up with you or reach out to you for anything, what's the best way to do that?
The easiest way is probably Twitter. I'm at David Leary. You can also sign up. I have a newsletter. You can go to davidleary.com. But the easiest way is Twitter for sure.
Well, we've reached the end of On the Road for today's episode. I want to thank our guest, David Leary, for joining us. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
And we also want to thank our listeners for tuning in. If you like what you heard, please rate us on iTunes, and we'll see you next time for another episode of On the Road with Legal Talk Network.
If you'd like more information about what you've heard today, please visit LegalTalkNetwork.com. Subscribe via iTunes and RSS. Find us on Twitter and Facebook, or download our free Legal Talk Network app in Google Play and iTunes. The views expressed by the participants of this program are their own and do not represent the views of, nor are they endorsed by, Legal Talk Network, its officers, directors, employees, agents, representatives, shareholders, and subsidiaries. None of the content should be considered legal advice. As always, consult a lawyer.